Starting today, all food scraps, food soil, paper, and yard waste must be separated from your garbage and set out for composting. New Yorkers who don't comply could face $25 to $100 fines at first. Owners of buildings with 4 or more units are required to have a designated storage area with clearly labeled compost bins. We've been talking about it all morning and, of course, in the months leading up to today. Joining us now with advice for composting beginners is Andrew Hargest, founder of the Compost Club. Andrew, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Hey, Chris. Good morning.
So for some, I'm sure this is like too much to even handle. So for those who have never composted before, what are some of the basics that people need to know about?
Yeah, so it's very simple. No need to overcomplicate it. Composting is basically just collecting your food scraps from when you're cooking in, or if you have some leftovers that you're not going to eat, just diverting it from the trash can into a designated compost bin, and then making sure that it gets into the collection bin at your building afterwards.
Some tips, easy tips for people. I could just imagine, again, if I still lived in the city, I lived in the city for 20 years, and if this was happening, I'd be like, oh my God, this is going to be a disaster in a small apartment trying to do something like this.
Right.
But what are some easy tips for people right now that aren't necessarily in the bigger buildings that are going to have more resources?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, you have to remember that we're putting the food scraps in the trash bin already. So merely choosing a different bin is a simple step in the right direction. But as far as tips go, if you do have outdoor space or maybe like a fire escape where you can keep a small bin outside, that's one thing that you can do. Another thing that in my opinion is a slightly better option if you have the freezer space, but take a small receptacle and keep your food scraps in the freezer so that you don't have to worry about smells. You don't have to worry about any critters or bugs or anything getting into them, and just keep them in the freezer. That way you can just out of sight, out of mind. And whenever the compost pickup is in your neighborhood, you just drop them in the collection bin.
So I have to imagine a lot of people are thinking, okay, this is going to hit me financially in a couple ways. A, the fines that exist out there, but also needing to get, I guess, additional bins, things like that we're talking about. Any free or low-cost resources available to help New Yorkers get started without having to spend too much extra money?
Yeah, of course. So the city is providing those brown bins for buildings. So there's a website and on DSNY website, they do come at a cost, but I think they're fairly affordable. But there are ways to do it for free. Like I just said, if you have a paper bag lying around, you can do it with the paper bag. But if you do want to take the next step and get the full kit to make sure you're doing it properly, you can find private companies like Compost Club that do have these really good containers with tight lids and make sure that you're keeping smells and other stuff you don't want away.
I think people are going to be amazed with how little garbage they have when they do separate, some of the food waste from the typical garbage they send out. That's some of the things that I've heard from people in the past. Let's talk about the environmental benefits, though, to composting that people may not be familiar with.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, I think 30% of New York's total waste is food. So if you can imagine, there's millions and millions of pounds of waste and trash going to landfill right now. 30% of that is food. So what the city wants to do is divert that food that's currently going to landfill and just creating methane in landfills, which is a horrible greenhouse gas. What they're trying to do is divert that to a composting operation that's going to turn that food into something valuable that we can put back into our ecosystem. It's a great nutrient-rich additive to soil, which helps crops grow faster and healthier. And then again, it also limits the amount of methane that is being created and leaking into the atmosphere through landfills.
So you've got the Department of Sanitation, rather. They pick up the composted waste that's going to be obviously in these bins in the city right now. I know you mentioned fertilizer. Are there any other ways in which it's used after it's collected, or can you take me through the process of what's going to happen here in the city, what they have infrastructure-wise set up for this?
Yeah, definitely. So I think there's a couple different ways. One is there's food going towards just regular natural-based composting, and then they're also using the waste that they can't compost and turning it into energy at various energy plants around the country or around the state. So, some people are saying, well, we're using food and turning it into diesel fuel. Well, that's better than pulling oil out of the ground and using that to power our economy.
And some people are worried about composting attracting some pests or, as you mentioned, some critters. What's the best way to avoid this, whether you're doing it in your house or whether it's on the side of the house or in the front of the building?
Yeah, of course. So, I appreciate that concern, but if you think about it, we're putting trash in bags on the street. Composting is actually requiring a locked bin, which is the next best step to keeping critters and rodents out of trash. So in my opinion, it's actually a better alternative to what we're currently doing, because without composting, we're just throwing that food in the trash can anyway.
I think we can both agree that some people are slow to adopt to big changes like something like this, even though they've been warned for months. Do you foresee a number of fines being levied by the city in the next couple of weeks?
I guess I could speak from my own experience that we'll probably see some fines and some people not so happy about those fines. Yeah. But just like any new thing, there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be some resistance to change. But who better than New York to lead the way on something progressive like this?
Well, just make sure you have operators standing by, because I'm sure there will be a lot of people calling on you guys for some advice because they haven't been paying attention for the past few months. Andrew, thank you again.
Would love that.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And thank you very much, the founder of the Compost Club.
Thank you, Chris,
for joining us. For more information on the new composting rules and fines, you can head to our website at cbsnewyork.com.